and welcome back to OmniFit TV. This is your host Omar, and I was supposed to upload the Superga Air disaster video today. I had to postpone the upload once again because I preferred not to upload this time. At this time, sorry, I preferred not to upload late. It's going to be quite the dense video, and I preferred to postpone the upload until tomorrow at around 6 p.m. That's usually peak time, where, uploading at that particular time provides a chance for more views. And I'd rather the story be told and received by multiple fans. I am making this video because I decided to talk about football's impact on me as a person. Football has played a very important role in my life. It's been part of my coping mechanism throughout some of the toughest moments of my life to this day. And this day is quite a difficult one for me. Today is the 14th anniversary of my father's passing. And the fondest footballing memory I have with him was watching the FIFA World Cup in the summer of 2006. I guess what I'd like to share has a lot to do with how football has helped shape me as a person. It's obviously provided me with some grand moments of joy. Watching Egypt win 3 consecutive continental titles, 3 consecutive Africa Cup of Nations. Watching Chelsea lift the Champions League in 2012. Watching Egypt make it to the World Cup of 2014, although we were quite horrible at the tournament. I guess I've always fallen in love with football over and over again because it happens on more than one occasion. The game just reels you in and it keeps reminding you why you fall in love with it in the first place. The main reason for that is how fair football is, although people would say otherwise. You can use journalist jargon all you want, but what makes football so thrilling and fair is how similar to life it is, how it mirrors life in general. You can even pay attention to that if you're playing a game of FIFA with a good friend of yours. Because it's never about the chances you miss. It's always about the chances you take. And that is as good an explanation about life as you'll ever hear. And it sums up football as well. This sport has taught me a lot about resilience. It's taught me a lot about character, about psychology, about the differences in mentality, about championships, about the mindset of a champion, about winning with grace, losing with grace, about portraying yourself to the world, about the person you think you are and the person you want people to think you are. And it's given me a lot of role models. There were people I genuinely looked up to growing up as a fan. And I used to watch a lot of football. I had a team that I followed in each of Europe's top 5 leagues. I'm a Chelsea fan through and through, but there are certain teams that I enjoy to watch. And every other season there would be another team in either the Premier League or another league that would just play some brilliant football. And that would also remind me of how change is important to the game. Just as important as it is to life. How exciting it can be. How enthralling, how renewing it can be. How it can renew your zest for the sport how it can renew your sense of purpose. And it just shows you how much of an impact the people on the pitch can have on the people watching, either from the stands or at home. While growing up, I used to look up to Frank Lampard, who's currently former Chelsea manager. I looked up to John Terry. Primarily those two. And I remember how Jose Mourinho would talk about their work ethic, about how they were mentally at a whole different place. And the comment he made a couple of seasons ago about how footballers these days at the age of 23 are brats, and giving an example of Lampard, he was like, Lampard at 23 was a man. That summed up a lot for me. And all these inspirational stories about players who, through the sport, have made a change in their community, in their countries. Looking at what Mohamed Salah is doing here in Egypt, how he's giving back to the community he grew up in. Looking at how Didier Drogba stopped a civil war in his country. It's quite exciting to think that a person who, to put myself in their shoes, I at one point, if we were to take maybe Samuel Eto'o or Didier Drogba, for example, I grew up in the Ivory Coast. I came from a very poor background, and now I've just stopped a war. The monumental feeling of, I'd imagine it would be humility and gratitude intertwined, because you would think that at one point in my life, if I were either of those players, putting myself in their shoes once again, I would think I was at a point in my life where nobody looked at me. I was a poor child, and now everyone is paying attention to me. And those of the footballers who are responsible human beings would think to themselves, okay, I have to do well with this. I have to do well here. People are paying attention to me. I have to set an example. And a lot of footballers have set an example. It's just crazy to think that you can go from having not a single chance in life given to you if you haven't received an education and all you've been doing is kicking a ball. You can go from not having a single chance in life outwardly to playing in the biggest stadiums in the world, being paid huge sums of money. And if you're the right kind of person, you do well with that money. And it's not really about the money as it is about the intent. And why am I talking about all of this? In case people think I'm digressing. It's just, when I said football was about life, this has a huge role to play in it. The fact that you can easily come from nothing and become everything. Become an idol. Be put on a pedestal by other people. And if you're the right kind of person, once again, you do well with it. You think about the smaller clubs and what it means to their communities when their clubs do well. How they allow their cities to participate and to just congregate, to get together for something that's far greater than themselves. I mean, when I was a child and I watched my favorite players take the pitch, not just Chelsea players, I had a deep affection for players like David Beckham, Juninho, Alessandro Del Piero, who remains until this very point in time my favorite striker. No, it's not Didier Drogba, as most people would assume. I love Drogba and all, but I have a certain affection for Del Piero because of his character on the pitch. You had people like Puyol, you had all of these mammoths on the pitch, and you think to yourself, I would think to myself, okay, what the hell am I going to do when all these players retire? How am I going to continue watching? And the older I got, the more interested I became in football history. The more I cared about the shirt, the badge, the colors, the culture. And it just grew on me. I started to think, this place is eternal. As maybe, as a strong word as that is, we've seen players come and go. We've seen fans come and go. People who've lived their entire lives and seen multiple people wear the shirt and leave. And you think to yourself, this is why I do this, for the badge. I put the shirt on and go to the stadium, or put the shirt on and watch the game on my TV, or listen to it on the radio. However I can watch or listen or just keep track of everything. You do it because of your sense of belonging. You do it because you feel like this is about an idea far greater than yourself. This is something that'll live on long after these players, long after you. And it'll live on because of the love of other people, and because of how they can pass that love down to their children, who may or may not support the same clubs, but they'll still be fans if they choose to. It's a monumental thing. And it just teaches you a lot about life, about connecting with others, about caring about something, and expressing those emotions in such a way where you become so animated. And I think it's one of the most amazing things in the world, that thousands upon thousands of people can get in a stadium and be with their loved ones, watch a game, celebrate if they win, cry if they lose, but still do it together. I mean, I remember there was a certain fan who would always attend Brazil's games in the World Cup. And that man passed away. And in the last World Cup, both of his sons attended, and they had that World Cup in their hands, the one that he would carry. And I think that makes us fall in love with the game even more, and it renews our love for the game, for the sport, for football. It's difficult to describe. It's difficult to put down in words, to express how much football has meant to me growing up. How I thought about these players and how they made me proud. To just, when it came to my national team at least, it meant a lot. Paying attention to Egyptian players moving abroad, watching the national team, and how 10 to 11 years ago they were ranked 10th or 11th worldwide in the FIFA rankings. And I remember how that made me feel, how proud I was, how I felt like we're good at something. And that's not to imply that we were bad at anything. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't know what we were necessarily good or bad at. I wasn't around here. I didn't live in Egypt after. I didn't live in Egypt until I was 8 years old, and then I left. And even in Lebanon, I paid attention to certain games that took place for their national team, and even then I was proud because I had a sense of love for the country. And it made me feel like, look at all these people. Look at how horrible and how hard their lives may be. Everything that they go through every day that I may not know of. And growing up in Lebanon was difficult. I mean, the lack of safety, the political turmoil, everything that was going on financially and economically. And yet, we tuned in. We just loved to get together during the international tournaments or weekly games, pop a cold one and just watch and cheer and jeer and get either angry or happy or excited, slightly disappointed, and then happy again, and then watch our blood pressure spike out of nowhere like it was nobody's business, and then laugh about it or throw a shade of banter. It's one of the most human experiences that I have ever had, watching a game with people that I love. And having to watch the Champions League semifinal earlier this week on my own was quite depressing. And it reminded me of how the spectacle in football is probably the biggest part of it. Sorry. It was a staunch reminder, a stark reminder that it may have been great on paper, but if no one was there to see it and react to it, then it probably wasn't all that great. And that's kind of sad, because we're living in really harsh times, and we're all trying to do our best. And you know, one day I'll tell the story of how and why OmniFoot came to be. And it wasn't just my idea. But one day I'll tell that story. And there are a lot of stories intertwined with it. There is a very deep passion in me. And it's humbling to think that I can sit here and talk about it, express it, share it with others, and they'll relate. They'll validate it. And they'll share their passion as well. And you know, it's never about the team or the shirt you wear. It's about the fact that you wear it. Even if you're a rival to a team that I support or to a team anyone else supports. We've seen what the industrialization of football has done to it. And how it'll always be the fans' game whenever we choose to take it back. The Super League was a big example of that. The reaction to the whole Super League issue was proof of that passion. Proof that we won't let the people in suits take the game away from us. Football gave me something to relate to. Gave me more than just one thing to relate to. The idea that you could be pegged back in your own corner. That you probably may not have been given a chance. And still, you find a way. It sounds like boxing, in a way. But sometimes football can be that way. It's all about becoming the giant. And then it's about knocking the giant back down to earth. And then it's about the next giant and how we can knock that giant back down to earth. Competition, change, attitude, work ethic, confidence. All of these things have played a role in the game that I love so dear. And one of the biggest reasons that I am doing this is, in a way, to give back. To thank football for what it has done in my life, for the lessons it has taught me. Despite everything, despite the issues that we may face in our daily lives, be they grief, sickness, financial woes, heartbreak, depression, that passion can help keep us going. It can give us something to be happy about. It can make life tolerable and bearable and worth celebrating, especially if it's with the right people. Hell, even if you're alone, you still get to celebrate it. You still get to be as passionate as you always were. And it'll always allow you to give your life more meaning by sharing that joy, however you can, just as I'm trying to right now. I'd like to thank everyone who has taken the time to watch this. This has been a very personal video, one that I am proud of, to be honest. I'm trying to put myself out there more. And I just can't help but say this. I can't help but say thank you to football. To everyone who's watched, if you haven't followed OmniFoot on social media, you will find links in the description below to all our accounts. The Superga air disaster video will be uploaded tomorrow in the afternoon. So I'll see you then. Thank you for tuning in.